Okay, welcome back to another coffee and a chat. I do have my coffee. Here's up. Okay, heat wave again, another one. And I'm struggling with these heat waves, I'll tell you. But this is iced coffee this time. This is very cold, lots of ice in it, not doing the hot coffee. Although I did do a hot coffee earlier, but right now I'm to iced coffee because it is time to cool down. Anyway, I hope you're doing well. I know there's heat waves all over the place, a lot of people going through this. And then today when we got up, I was looking outside and I told Martin, it looks hazy out there, almost like smoke. And he went outside and he goes, it is smoke. And so we were trying to figure out what was going on. And he had to run up to the dump. And he asked the gal, as you go, when you do the weigh scales, what all the smoke was. Did she know? Because a lot of times they know what's going on. She's like, yeah, there's fires in Canada and it's coming from there. So I guess we've got Canada's smoke down here. But I did go outside for maybe 15 minutes to try and do a little work in my strawberry bed. And that was about all I could take of the heat and then the smoke. And so it kind of ended up giving me a headache today. So it's been a little bit of a struggle, but that's okay. When you see this video, it will come up, should come up Friday morning at 6 a.m. But I'm actually filming it the day before, well, the end of the day before. So anyway, just life happens and dealing with it. And but we're doing good. We're doing good, and I hope you're doing good and just plugging away there. So today is my Sabbath journey, part 5. And today is dealing with that on the Sabbath, there is no work. And, maybe that's what I should have led with, because that's the thing everybody, seems to know and agree with, is that there is no work to be done on the Sabbath. And, but there's some things that go with that. There are consequences of working on the Sabbath. And also that it points out that we were designed to work for 6 days and then rest on the 7th. And so I kind of want to cover those things in today's. And the scripture that I'm using is Exodus 31, verses 14 to 15. And it says, therefore you are to observe the Sabbath, for it is holy to you. Everyone who profanes it shall surely be put to death. For whoever does any work on it, that person shall be cut off from among his people. For 6 days work may be done, but on the 7th day there is a Sabbath of complete rest, holy to the Lord. Whoever does any work on the Sabbath day shall surely be put to death. Now I remember a little over a year ago when I first started feeling this conviction about studying the Sabbath from the scriptures, not what everybody else was saying, but to really just look at what the scripture says about it. Thinking, if the consequence of not keeping the Sabbath is death, that's got to be important, and that really kind of was one of the things that was hitting me, that this is serious. Now I know that the children of Israel, they were commanded to keep the Sabbath, but it is designed, I believe, go back to some of my earlier videos where we discussed this, that it is for all of us, that everybody can benefit from it, that God didn't design it just for that little group of people, but he designed it for mankind. So with that in mind, one of the things that has been happening to me as I've been moving into this observing of the Sabbath, I'm all in now. All my little hurdles, I got over those, but I am more mindful about working 6 days. When I was coming up and I first got a job, I focused on a 5-day work week, right? I'd work Monday to Friday and then have my weekend off and just, cherish that weekend and, and it was just those 5 days. Well, then as I, really got out on my own and, got married, had a family, I got to where I was working more like 7 days a week just to keep things going. And definitely Marvin and I lead a little bit different kind of a lifestyle, a little bit more self-sustaining, or try to be. Had some challenges in that this year, but we do a lot of things more like the old ways, and not the easy, maybe modern conveniences only, although we do have a lot of modern conveniences. I mean, trust me, if Marvin can do the job sitting on a tractor, he will choose that over doing it by hand anytime. So, but just to maintain our lifestyle, it takes 7 days a week. That's the way we just have been for a lot of years now. And so having to really cut a whole day out, for a whole 24-hour period where I'm not doing any work, has been challenging, frustrating, hard just to even get that mindset. However, now that I've got that figured out, so I am more focused on the 6 days, Sunday through Friday. I am more focused of what needs to be accomplished. And honestly, I think I'm more productive now in those 6 days than I was in 7. And I think about it more and plan it out and organize it, and am more mindful in what I'm doing. So I already know that. Now I have some days, like today, I did not get much done. I just was really having a hard time pushing through the heat. And so I have days like that where it's just difficult to get things as much done as I needed to do. However, I had pretty much got everything done that I needed to do in 6 days. I got done in 4. So today, anything I did was a bonus. Tomorrow, when this video comes up, it'll be Friday, and I'll have, that's my preparation day, and I'll be able to be more focused on being prepared for the Sabbath, because I did get stuff done quicker this week. And, I really got on it to make sure I would make it, because the week before I didn't get everything done. And I really have gotten more praying and asking the Lord to give me the strength and give me the know-how and give me the tools and whatever it is that I need to accomplish what needs to be done that day. And that has been a life changer. So I am more focused on those 6 days of really accomplishing what needs to be accomplished. Then it makes it easier that when the Sabbath starts, I can just let go of all that. And as we talked about, or I shared with you last week, that, I'm choosing to go with the scripture that says not to focus on my own desires and my own wants, but to make the Lord my delight. And so my focus for the Sabbath is on God, not on my enjoyment or for relaxation or anything. And as I shared in that, I see that kind of maybe being an option. It doesn't seem so much like a command, but it's an option that comes with blessings. And I always want God's absolute best. I don't want less than that. So I'm choosing to do that. And my goodness, that makes for an even more wonderful Sabbath. It really does. This whole Sabbath thing is becoming kind of like, I used to years ago have what I call dates with Jesus. And I would, 3 to 4 times a year, I would go away for like 3 to 4 days and just go. A lot of times I'd just get a motel room and I'd just stay locked up in there. I'd get one that had a little kitchen, and I'd take along, food and everything. And I would set an alarm for when I had to check out, at the end of the days that I was going to be there. And I just locked myself in there, just me and the Lord, no interruptions, no way I could work, because I left home to do it. I left all that behind. And that got me through some really tough things because it gave me that recharge. And I'm realizing that that was what the Sabbath is for me each week now. It really is that recharge where I can just lay it all down. I have to be disciplined in that, and there's nothing wrong with that, of not doing work. Even though I see something new, I'm like, well, you know what? Sabbath is over at 6 o'clock Saturday night, and if it really needs to be done, I can do it then, or I'll catch it the next day. And so it's really helped me in that. And by putting my focus so purposefully on the Lord, it is really building that intimacy between God and I. And I'm loving it. I love it. And it really does give me what I need for the week. So with that, these consequences, so again, had to go to God and be talking about, because like, I need to know how this pertains to me. And like I said, I don't think, anybody's going to put me to death or cut me off from my people if I don't keep the Sabbath. In fact, I kind of it seems to be more weird people out that I do keep the Sabbath. And, I don't make a big deal about it, but, I think it's a little harder for people to have that understanding and see that as being the thing to do, because especially a Saturday, that's the day that people are, doing so many things. Like, how do you not do that? You learn. So I do see that intimacy growing, but what about these consequences? Because they're in there. So how does that pertain to me? So as I work through these things and started, really focusing on them and kind of thinking on them and praying about it and all, I came down to this conclusion that I see two things here. I see a physical consequence and I see a spiritual consequence. Now, the physical consequence would be being put to death or dying. And I went to this is in Exodus, so I went to the Hebrew in my exhaustive concordance, and the word used, for death means to die. Now it says put to death, but then it comes from a word that means to die. And so I thought about that, and and I'm one of the things I've been realizing is how physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, all these ways that I'm more alive as I'm learning to observe the Sabbath, because I'm getting that recharge, that reset, that refresh, that rest that my body needs. So all this, and I think I said that in another video, is all these years that I wasn't doing that, and I was pushing myself for 7 days. What kind of a toll did that take on me? Because my body was not designed to do that, but I forcefully was making it do it. So even though maybe I'm not going to be put to death by someone because I didn't keep the Sabbath, not keeping the Sabbath was probably putting a death in me and it taking a toll on me. I really, as I'm seeing the benefits of the Sabbath, I'm believing more and more that is very likely true. So I know that I've been able to push through some things that before I couldn't, and that I am noticing changes in me that are for the better, health-wise. So there is, that physical consequence of being put to death. And I think that, as it pertains to me, that I have suffered in my health and probably, pushing that death in my body rather than life by not getting the rest I needed. Okay, and I'll tell you, when you get past a certain age, when I was young, I remember there was this one weekend, and I was like in junior high, I think. And I had a birthday party at this one girl's house, and then I went home and I had some stuff I needed to do. I stayed up all night doing it. Then the next day, I was up doing my chores and whatever. It was in the summer. And then I went to a slumber party and we were up all night. And then the next day was a youth event where we stayed up all night. And so for 3 nights in a row, I did not get sleep. And yet I still was able to function. Just being woke up in the middle of the night and having like 3 or 4 hours sometimes cut out of the middle of the night where I don't get sleep, I can't even function. I can't think straight. I don't feel good. I mean, you hit a certain time where it's like, you need your sleep. And if you don't get it, you're not okay. And I kind of look at it like that kind of thing happening, that when I'm not getting that rest that God designed me to have, I'm not able to function at my best, and maybe not even able to function in some ways like I need to at all. Now, the spiritual consequence, is the part about being cut off from their people. And so I looked at that, went again, and that simply means to cut off or cut down. That's what cut off comes from, a word that means that. And people meaning kinsmen, which usually would be like your relatives. And, from among your people means, the word for among means inward part or midst. And so that helped me kind of sort through this a little more, looking at that more literal translation of where the words came from. And so I see that the spiritual consequence is that I'm not as close to the Lord as I am when I'm observing the Sabbath, because I'm taking 24 hours of focusing on Him. That makes a huge difference. Even my closeness with my brothers and sisters in Christ, and I can see that magnified. I've even had some of the people in my life, my Christian family, who know me, and they're like, wow, something's different. What's going on? You seem so much more at peace, so much closer to the Lord. Not that, I was far off or anything, but it's like they can see a difference. And what I know has been making that difference is these Sabbaths. And so much so, that's why I loved when Cass sent me that song that I told you guys about. I think it was in the last video, because it's about the Sabbath and the joy of, it's going to start, and then how sad it is when it comes to an end. But then we know 6 more days and then it starts again. And, and I loved that song. It's just this very sweet, simple song, but I'm listening to it and I'm like, oh my word, I love it, because I totally feel that way, like on, Wednesday, I had to do some stuff and I'm like, day after tomorrow at 6 o'clock, Sabbath starts. I look forward to it. And then it's like, okay, do I have everything, am I getting everything done that needs to be done so that I can really relax and just really enjoy the Sabbath? It's so great. I have an alarm set on my phone for when Sabbath starts, and again for when Sabbath ends. And when that alarm goes off and it's time to start the Sabbath, and I go turn on my little Sabbath lantern so that the whole household knows I'm, in Sabbath, then, I get all excited when that goes off. And then when it goes off the next evening, when it's time to come to an end, it's kind of like makes me sad, because I really enjoy it. And it's like, okay, back to the real world. But, and having that little lantern or that little lamp thing really does help, because I know last week there was a lot. Our grandson that lives with us, he works nights, and sometimes I think he gets confused over what day it is, and he was going to ask me to do something, and he saw, because we keep the Sabbath lamp on our kitchen tables where we put it for now, because everybody goes there several times a day. And he goes, oh, I was going to ask you to, I don't remember what it was. He goes, but I see the lamp's lit, so it's Sabbath. And I was like, yes. And so then he's like, okay, so I'll wait till Sabbath's over. Well, that's, not for a while yet. But I'm like, that's the whole thing of why Marvin and I ever got that, is that we can look, when that's lit up, we know it's Sabbath time. And then, our grandson knows too. So anyway, I'm really enjoying this coffee tonight. It's how sometimes you make that cup of coffee, or if you're a coffee person, you'll understand. And that coffee is just, it's a really good cup of coffee. Because I have to put half and half in my coffee now. I can't drink. I used to drink it strong and black. But then I just hit a time where I got to a certain age that my stomach can't take that anymore. So I have to put some half and half in there to kind of, I guess, buffer my stomach. And sometimes that ratio is just perfect. The coffee is just the right strength, and then it's just the right amount of half and half, and it is so good. Well, that's what that cup is. So I apologize that I keep going to it. But anyway, this is what, my meditation point is for this week with the Sabbath is, yes, I know that no work's to be done, but maybe understanding why I need that rest, that there are consequences for not taking rest from work. And even if, you're not observing the Sabbath per se, it's still important for you to get the rest you need. And you were not designed to work for 7 days, and you do need to rest. You do need to relax. And I guarantee you, the older you get, the more you're going to realize that, and the more consequences that you may already be realizing within your body because you're not taking that rest. And, my Marvin, he is a wonderful man, but he is a very hard worker. Like, I don't think he always knows how to rest, how to relax, because there's so many things to be done. And I don't know if it's like me trying to be so mindful of making sure I get so many things done and whatever, so that it's done by the end of the week. And I make lists. Okay, I am a list person. I have lists for my lists. I have so many lists and little cards that let me know what I'm supposed to be doing. I mean, I've just got all these little list systems, and that's how I function. And especially the older I get, because I forget. But he was making a list. He's like, I need you to help me make a list, because we're doing some, well, I'm sure you noticed that things keep changing behind me, because we've been moving some things around and repurposing some things and repurposing rooms. Like the room I'm in now that has become my office used to be a guest room, and now it's not. And there's just a lot of things that are changing in the home, and there's a reason for that, and maybe I'll tell you on another video. But there's some things I can't do, and I need him to help me with it. And we're trying to make things more practical for us. Like we have this collection of lanterns, and they're hung really high because we've got cathedral ceilings, and they're hung up at the top of the ceiling. And I told Marvin, I want to put chains on them so that we can lower them down, because I can't go up ladders anymore. So in order to clean those lanterns, I have to get somebody else that will go up there, get the lanterns down, hand them to me, I clean them, and then they put them back up. But if we suspend them from chains and hang them lower, because I can go up one step, this is so pathetic, I can go up one step on my little step stool and still be okay. If I can't go the second step anymore, because there's not enough stuff around me to, of the stool to be secure, and I have very poor balance now, and and I just don't want to fall and break anything on my body or anywhere else. And so I am seeing my limitations, and I abide by them. So, but I don't want to always have to have somebody else come do that for me. And if we suspend them down lower, actually they'll be more noticeable. And I can then, because it's like they're over a half wall, so they're not like where you would hit them or anything. it's pretty cool. Maybe one day when we get them done, I'll take a picture and show you. But anyway, I want to be where I can reach them and I can go ahead and get them down, clean them, put them back up, and do all that without having to bother anybody. And there's just a bunch of other stuff like that needs to be done. Well, I need Marvin to do the chains. I need him to go up the ladder to, and so, yeah, there was a few things like I couldn't, some projects I was working on, and it's like, I need you to do this before I can go any further. But the end result will be, I'll be able to do a lot more independently than what I'm able to do right now, because we're making it more functional, and we're doing some stuff for him like that too. So anyway, he was making the list and just working like, I mean, he was going crazy last night. I'm like, stop already, because he's trying to complete this list, and because he had so many other things happen that he hadn't planned on for the day. And it's like, you need to stop and rest. Just stop. Go sit in your chair, put on some dopey movie, and fall asleep in front of it, because he rests really, really well that way. And finally he did. But my husband is a very hard worker, and it's hard to get him to stop. But he's also at an age now where he sees that he needs to rest, and he's getting a little better about it. But I think maybe some of the things I've been doing might be rubbing off on him a little bit. I don't know. But anyhow, I just wanted to share this with you, even though it seemed like such, when I first was looking at, well, everybody knows you don't work on the Sabbath, but there's some things that go with that. And that's what I really wanted to touch on tonight, or this morning, or this afternoon, whenever you're looking at it. I say this, tonight because it's nighttime when I'm making the video. But I'm hoping that this maybe even not just with the Sabbath, but just life in general, that it'll speak to some people that maybe need to hear that it's okay to stop and rest. God designed us to need to do that. And, and to reflect. That's the other thing. Did I say that already on this video? But, when the first Sabbath happened was the seventh day of creation. And God said he stopped all his work, and, and he blessed the day and called it holy. And, and he looked back at all he'd done for the week and how good it was, of what he'd done in creation. And that's another thing that I think is part of this, stopping your work long enough, to look back and see what you've accomplished and to feel good about it. We should feel good about what we've done. I'm not talking about pride and arrogance, but the satisfaction of knowing I did good. I accomplished something, and now things are better because of it. So anyway, that's where that is. That's my thoughts on it today. And I hope this blesses somebody. And I hope you guys are doing good. I guess that's it. I'm ready to be done with today. And then, yeah, I'm looking forward to Sabbath. I am ready for the Sabbath this week. So ready for it. So ready to focus on the Lord without anything else interfering. So I love you guys. I hope you're doing well. And I don't know, there may be some extra videos pop up in the middle, but for now, I'm doing the best I can to make sure these are always ready to come up on at 6 a.m. Eastern Time on Friday mornings. And, and designing those that if you are wanting to observe the Sabbath, that it will give you a point of something that you can really focus on and meditate on for the day. That helps me. That's what I'm doing. And it helps me grow in those things and really get them solid in here. All right. I love you guys. I'll talk to you later. It's been almost a half hour. We got to go. All right. Bye-bye.